Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes. We are with our Stalker, Dark Phantom. We are soloing the Stalker. We're at level 30, and we're going to continue our soloing experience. I've gotten Marisol to give us the beginning of the Vampire story arc, so we're going to go to King's Row and head on in. And so we're going to be fighting vampires. This will be very interesting, and we're going to try to see how many times, if at all, we can stop them from turning into werewolves, because usually when they get down to a little sliver of health, they turn into werewolves and you have to fight them again. Super fun to do as a brute because it helps you keep that fury up. As a stalker, I think it'll be interesting to see if we can like hold this killer shot that auto crits and stuff until the point where they get that, get down, to like here, not all the way to the sliver that makes them wolf up, and then see if we can knock them out before they do it. Not that I mind fighting them again, it's more XP and everything, but just to see, because none of my other characters have ever been able to really stop them from doing it. And, I don't know, it's sort of a mini game for me to see if I can stop the bad guys from triggering their uber powers and stuff like that. As we go, we're going to talk about several things. One is just the concept of soloing the Stalker and what enhancements we're using. There's a little bit of a comment or question on one of my, actually the first video of this series, but the comment just came out the day I'm filming this, so I just want to talk about it a little bit. Not arguing with the person at all, just to sort of discuss a little bit, what we're about here and that sort of thing. I also want to remind everybody we now have some generic invention enhancements. The only difference between these and single origins is that they have a specific value. It's a little bit better than a +0. It's like a +1 enhancement. And so you can see this is 35.0, right? And these guys are 34.8. So it's just about like a +1 enhancement. And they just never expire. Oh, speaking of that, we can... Whoops, not that. This one. There we go. Let's buff that up. There we go. Just to get that little tiny bit extra. Alright, so we got a pretty good set of inspirations, and we're going to head in and we're going to try to get the vampire. Going the wrong way. Okay, so in one of the comments in my very first video, somebody mentioned that they had done tankers, and I can't remember what other archetype, and soloed them and, not had any problems with them, which, of course, doesn't surprise me. But then that person said, I can't imagine ever just doing single origins, like, purposely. Here's the thing with what I'm doing here. First of all, the only difference between playing a character single origin only and playing a character with sets is that with sets you can fight higher enemies. It doesn't change things at all. What ends up happening is, if we're on sets, which you wouldn't bother to do at level 30 yet anyway, I don't think, the fight that we just had against +1s, it would work the same way. They would just be +3s or something. It doesn't actually mechanically change how you experience the game. It just changes how fast you level up, because you can defeat higher enemies, which gives you more XP, and that's pretty much it. I think also that most people who are doing sets are talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, those of you who use sets a lot, talking about using sets in the upper levels. You still have to get there, right? There would be no ability to have a 6-slot set in any power other than Assassin's Eclipse for this character yet, because we just don't have enough slots. So I can't imagine that anybody would bother putting sets on a power like this, or like this, when you only have a slot or two in the power. Right, you're going to wait until you've got your slots in, and then you're going to add the set powers, right? The set enhancements, because that's where you get the bonuses from having multiple copies of the same, multiple enhancements in the same set, right? And so you might be working on entirely on sets in the upper levels, above level, I guess, 35 or so, but you certainly wouldn't be down here in the lower levels. And I want to point out that one of the other comments, one of the videos that I was responding to, where the person, the whole reason I started making this series was because somebody had made a video listing out like the easiest and hardest archetypes to solo, and they put Stalkers at the bottom. Not at the very bottom. They put controllers and defenders at the very bottom, but they had Stalkers like at the bottom of the tier above that, and said that they're really hard to solo. And I was like, I can't believe anyone would think that. Let me show people how to do this, right? My last Stalker playthrough was on Rebirth. It was single origin only, but it was many years ago. And in the comments, I said I always thought of Stalkers as being one of the easier archetypes to solo. You can one-shot lieutenants. You can take out bosses pretty easily, even purple bosses. You guys have seen me do that now. I took out a purple elite boss, didn't I? I know I've taken red ones, but didn't I take out a purple elite boss in one of the last story arcs? It's not, you have to use your inspirations and stuff, but you can do it, and it's actually not that hard as a Stalker to do that. And so his response was, he assumed that I was talking about using sets. I didn't say anything about sets. Oh, sure, you can do that with sets in the 40s, but what's the experience like from level 20 to 30 with just single origins? So one of the reasons I'm only doing single origins with this character to level 30, right, is because I was specifically asked, how does a Stalker perform in the 20s and 30s with just SOs? Well, I can't show that if I've got sets on the character already, right? The other reason I don't go big on sets is because to get quote-unquote the good sets, well, everybody wants the same ones, so they're all really expensive. And you have to farm influence. I don't farm. I don't find that fun. So I don't necessarily go, oh, I'm going to do SOs preferentially and refuse to slot sets if I have access to them. But if slotting sets is going to require me to farm, it ain't happening because I don't like to farm. I'm not going into the Architect. I'm not going to make whatever the flavor of the month in the Architect is now. It used to be Fire Spines, Fire Brutes. And you would go into specific missions, and in those missions you would specifically... who just shot me? In those missions you would be fighting minions that were vulnerable to spines and fire. It was set up by the mission builder, and the whole purpose of that mission was for leveling. Right? I don't do that. I have no interest in that. So I will eventually put sets on this character. When we have all the slots available, which we don't on any power yet except Assassin's Eclipse and then these two that are 4-slotted. When we have all the slots we need on all of our powers, when we have everything ready, and when everything already has these things on it so that I don't have to worry about getting SOs anymore, then maybe I will start worrying about sets. We're going to get the ATOs. I'm working on the merits right now. I just got a bunch of Explorer badges. I did Striga Island, I did Brickstown, and I did one other one. I can't remember now which one. What are my most recent badges? Oh, Skyway City, because I had been in Skyway City and I hadn't actually finished it. The tips ran out, and I had to go find another badge to walk over. To this day, I have not been able to get the tips to start up again when they stop. And I was going to say, I think it might happen when I've already gotten a badge before I start the tips. If I get to the next one in the sequence, the tips stop because I already have that badge. But on Striga Island, I didn't have any badges, and it did the same thing to me. So I don't know why it's doing that. So anyway, I just want to explain the reason. I'm not like sitting here going, all we're going to do is SOs. We're doing SOs now up to 30 because I was asked, can you do that soloing that you claim to be able to do in the 20s and early 30s with just SOs? So I'm showing that. Now, we're going to use the recipes we find. Eventually, let me show you here. I have sets. Right here, I have some set enhancers. I don't have whole sets. But I got a few of different ones, like these guys. I got 4 titanium coatings. I think I crafted those for my Brood or my Tanker and then realized I didn't really like something about them. I don't remember what, and decided not to put them on. I got a couple of Kismets. Those are actually pretty good sets. I might do those. We'll see. But you know, I get what's affordable. I get what I have a few of to begin with, right? Since I already have a couple of Kismet, it wouldn't be that expensive to build the rest of the set. But that's a defense set, and I don't bother to put those on unless I have 5 slots, and I don't always have 5 slots to put on my toggles because I need them in other things, right? And so, um, eventually we'll have sets. Go look at Silver Phoenix. She's got sets on all of her powers, I think, or almost all of them. But that was at level 50, right? And I did that in the upper 40s with her because, I was kind of bored and I didn't have anything else to do with her enhancements. But, um, but yeah, as far as I'm concerned, sets are a bonus, not a must-have. And I am perfectly willing to play missions against +1s and 2s without the sets instead of +4s and 5s with the sets. Right? Like, I see no difference in that. It is effectively the same experience. The sets just make it as easy to fight a +3 as to fight a +2. So if you just don't put it on +3, it doesn't hurt. So that's my take. And that's why we're not doing sets. Now, if we go back to Rebirth, where I actually explicitly said this is going to be an SO only run, I did that for 2 reasons. One, I had spent all this time with Silver Phoenix getting past level 50 into veteran levels on Homecoming. You can do that. And I wasn't doing Incarnate Trials, but I had basically done like every story arc and stuff. I had done all the Explorer. I got all the badges. I got all the rewards. I played the auction house. I made a lot of influence. She has 170 million or something influence, which, isn't a lot to the farmers, but it was a lot to me, so that I could use it on my other characters. And then Homecoming banned Let's Plays like this. You couldn't put video out because they were in negotiations with NCSoft and they were afraid this would harm their negotiations. And so I had to stop filming on Homecoming, which meant that where is this guy? Which meant that I either had to stop doing Let's Plays or I had to switch servers. So I switched to the Rebirth server. And Rebirth didn't, they don't have any, what do you want to call it, communication with the Homecoming servers. It's not like I can transfer my influence. I hear a glowy, but I don't know where it is. Here it is. So I had to start at 0 again. So one of the reasons I did just SOs with Tiger Strike was I knew that you can make a lot of money selling, right, as I've been doing, selling the orange salvage and these things, prismatic crap and everything. I can sell that again. You can make millions, and if you just stay on SOs, it's a huge profit. So I did that with Tiger Strike, and then I switched to, I believe, Nightmare Lass. And then Nightmare Lass, I just traded influence down to her, and she was able to get sets on her powers, right? And the same thing with Quintessence Lass, because I had a sugar daddy, or a sugar mommy in this case, since Tiger Strike's female, and that character could train down influence. Also, it cost influence as well as reward merits on Rebirth to purchase the ATOs, and that's quite expensive. And so I was able to have, I believe it was Tiger Strike, purchase some of the ATOs directly for Quintessence Lass and just mail them to her, right? And I think there was some sort of limitation where you could only buy 1 a day or something, or a couple, I can't remember now. And so I was like, oh, I'll just do it with my other account. So I was using that account to fund the other accounts, which is why I kept that character on SOs, because that's less expensive for her to do than buying sets on a character that I was trying to use as a financier. Now, I know you could be faster about it if I had used sets with her, then sent her into the Architect and farmed. But, as I explained just now, I hate farming. It is not interesting to me. I don't want to do it. I don't find it fun. I'd rather do my story arcs. The idea of going into the same exact mission over and over again, and then having to farm and just doing exploits to farm, which is what people are mostly doing, is not interesting to me. I get nothing out of that, and I don't think anybody would want to watch a Let's Play about it either, because it would probably bore the heck out of you. It'd be fun to watch once. I watched somebody do it. There is somebody, I can't remember who, a couple years ago, who went into one of the farming architect missions, and he was like, this is how to farm. I'm like, okay, let me watch it. I've never actually seen anybody do it, right? So how do you know you're going to hate it if you've never done it? Because I hate stuff like that. I know I wouldn't like it. So I watched him. I watched him for about 10 minutes, and I said, I would want to pull my hair out. This is not fun, right? I would not want to do this, right? It confirmed, nope, I don't like this, right? I would not enjoy it. So, I don't farm, and therefore I can't do the level of set production and set slotting that people who farm can do. I don't want to do it. So it's not a problem for me. Do we have an asterisk? We do not. Okay. But that's why you're mostly going to see me doing SOs and generic inventions for quite a while, and then the first sets we're going to put in will be the ATOs. The archetype enhancements, we need, what did I say, 1,200 for that? We have 400. We have 2/3 as much as we need to put in the first of our sets. But I'm going to wait until we can slot both sets, and then we'll do them both. Why? Because that will mean that I will have more options as to which powers to put the sets in, because I will have more of my attacks 6-slotted. Shadow Maul's going to probably get it at 31 and be done, right? So then we'll have 2 sets 6-slotted. But we also want to put Shadow Punch, we also want to put Siphon Life, we also want to put Smite. And I'm going to have to read through, because I don't know off the top of my head, the Stalker ATOs to see what bonuses they give, to see which powers I want to put it on. Your knee-jerk reaction might be that you want to put it on Assassin Strike, but it depends on what each of the ATOs has a, shall we call it a proc or a secondary effect in the last enhancement in the set. So for Scrappers, one of them does enhanced criticals, right? So then you have to ask yourself, which power do you want to put it on? That power will do crits more. So here's the thing. If you put it on your big attack, Crane Kick, let's say, that recharges more slowly than your small attack, Thunder Kick, let's say, in martial arts, then the big attack will, when it crits, since the crit is based on the base damage of the attack, will do more of a crit. But it's not going to trigger as often because it doesn't recharge as often and you can't use it as much. Right? On the other hand, if you have a smaller attack that is faster to recharge, it will trigger more often, but it will not do as much base damage, so when you do the crit damage, it won't do as much of a crit. Right? So, this attack takes 10 seconds to recharge. This attack, which is a smaller attack, recharges every 2¼ seconds. So I can do it a lot more often. So what's the effect? I don't remember off the top of my head, and I'm not going to bother looking now, but what's the effect of the Stalker secondaries, right? If it's going to do something that I want triggered more frequently, then I might want to put it on Shadow Punch. Or I might want to put it on Smite, which can be re-triggered every 4½ seconds. Right? Where is this other guy? I hear him. Over here. Go up. Maybe he's up here. Nope. So this is going to be one of these where I'm going to probably have to go clean out the rest of the base and come back to see where the heck this guy is, because I don't know where he is. There's too much three-dimensionality here. He's over here somewhere. It's quieter up here than downstairs. I don't know where he is. So what I'm going to do is clean out the rest of the base and hope a little red triangle pops up. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to find him, because I don't know where he is. Isn't there another path? Are we done with this base? Oh, man. We are done with this base. Oh, wait, maybe not. Hang on. Let's go this other way. Yeah, I've said this before. For some bizarre reason, the people who create video game RPGs think that every single RPG must have mazes. And the COH devs are no different, and so they created a bunch of maps that are maze-like because they think that every role-playing game should have mazes. Okay, so I don't see anybody anywhere else. So where is this guy? Alright, so maybe what we can do, let's try this. We're going to take hide off and see if I can aggro him. And the other thing I might be able to do is do this energy aura when I get near the sound, and maybe he'll end up in the radius, and it'll trigger him to attack me, and then I can see where the heck he is. So I was hearing him in the middle, like here. Okay, it's softer there. It's loudest here. Let's go downstairs. Oh, there he is. Okay, we got him. There may be another spawn, but hopefully if we take this guy out, we'll see the red. No. I still hear another guy. Let's head back down. Is there an even further down? I don't think so. Alright, let's try this. No. Try to go straight up. I feel like it's right up here. But I don't see anything. Yeah, this sort of stuff is absolutely maddening, in my opinion. You have one guy, God knows where he is. I can hear him beeping, but I can't see him. Oh, there he is. Oh my gosh. Okay, and now there are even more guys that I didn't see. Yeah, I don't know who's responsible for making some of these maps, but not cool, guys, with all these little hidden nooks and crannies. I guess they thought it would be fun to crawl over the corner of every little map. Maybe it is for some folks, not so much for me. Alright. That's the mission. And now we're going to talk to Marisol. I also want to point out that room, along with a couple of others, is in fact a newer room. It was not original to the game, so that mission wasn't as annoying before. So this idea of the defeat all missions, originally when the game first came out, you didn't have all of this crawling all over the map looking in these little tiny gaps for things, because the original maps did not have those kinds of rooms in them. Those rooms, I'll point them out as we find them, those rooms have been added subsequently. And so when the game originally came out, there was none of this, we can't find the last minion. The glowies sometimes were stuck in the walls, and sometimes minions were stuck in the walls. But these original maps, which are council maps here, but were 5th column originally, this room wasn't there. This is a newer room that was added after launch. This did not exist. Okay? And so if you're having trouble finding spawns in this room, well, part of that is that's not how they originally designed it. Right? So when they had the defeat all missions, when they were testing it in beta and everything to see if this worked, they didn't have problems, right? Well, you say, why didn't this happen in beta where people were screaming and yelling that they couldn't find spawns? Well, I mean, there was some of that when it was bugged, right? But once they had it debugged after the game had launched, there wasn't a lot of this, we can't find the spawns. Because these rooms, where it's hard to find spawns in, didn't exist in the original version of the game when it came out in 2004. This is a new room that was added afterwards. I don't know exactly when, but probably post City of Villains, when they started adding different rooms to the maps to try and make them more interesting. But they didn't go back and edit the defeat all mission requirements. And the problem with that is that then some of these rooms had spawn points that left, and after the villains start wandering around, right, left the villains in these little nooks and crannies that it's impossible to find. This room's not so bad, it's mostly open. But some of the other rooms, it's like there's these tiny little corners where you really have to do some work to even get into the corner. It doesn't even really seem to show up on the map, right? Because you have these maps. If you think about how the maps are structured, again, this is a legacy of the way the game was designed. When the game was designed, there was no three-dimensionality to most of the maps. A couple of the cave ones, yes. The Orenbega maps didn't exist at all. That was new. That was added later. Most of the maps were two-dimensional. There was no three-dimensionality to the level. And so the fact that the map doesn't really show you, right? If I walk around the bottom of this room, it reveals the whole map. And so if I don't look up and see that there's space up there that you can walk, for whatever reason, I can think that I've been over the whole map when I really haven't. Now, I don't know what they would have done with the mapping system if, when they had launched the game, they had had more three-dimensional levels, right? But because other than a couple of caves, they didn't really have any three-dimensional levels. The guys who created this auto map didn't need to think about how are we going to represent the three-dimensionality to the players and let them see where they've been. This is another addition that did not exist originally. This room is a trap. I actually like this room. This is one of the new ones that I like. This leads to the prisons, right? The prisons did not exist initially. This was put out later, after City of Villains, I believe. Or maybe with City of Villains. They came up with this idea of prisons that you have to break out of. So if you get defeated in this mission and you hit go to the hospital, you don't go to the hospital, you go to the prison, and you have to break out. Right? So this whole area only came into being when the prisons came into being. Right? And it's a trap. There is a spawn here. There's a spawn here. There's a spawn here. And there's a spawn here. And all of the spawns out here can see into this room because it's open. Right? So why is it a trap? It's not a trap as in single player. You're probably fine. Although these guys might aggro to me if I attack this guy. Right? But if you're in a group, and there are 16 guys in here because you're in a group of 5 or 6. And they're spread all over the room. As you take them out, On this side, you'll aggro this spawn, which has 16 guys, some of them over here. If you take them out on this side, you'll aggro this spawn, which is going to have 16 more guys here. And sooner or later, you're going to aggro these guys, who can also see around this corner. And you can chain aggro all 4 spawns and end up with this huge mega fight. Which is why smart players, when they're on a team, stand at the door and pull. You shoot one of the guys closest to you and you back up. And it's crowded, it's cramped, it's annoying, but you fight here. If you dive in and you just start attacking, you will get spawns added from both sides and probably the back of the room, and you end up in a mess. People's frame rates start to drop with all the spam, especially on older computers. Even if you're a bunch of good players, you could be working instead of at 30 or 60 frames a second at 3 or 4, and you're at a slideshow, and you can't even get things. Your recharges are going chick, chick, chick instead of smoothly going around. Your buttons get stuck, and people wipe because of the just the lag, right? So how do you deal with it? You pull, or you come here and you take these guys out, right? So I always do the sides because the sides will not generally chain aggro. Remember what I said about spawns not looking up. These guys are less likely to see this. You might aggro these guys, but you probably won't aggro the guys in the room. And so the 2 ways to do this, if you can get to the side like a Stalker, start over here. But if you're in a team, my recommendation is start at the door and do what we call, any experienced computer gamer knows, it's called the doorway pull, right? You attack and back up. You pull the spawns out to the door and you fight in the doorway. Only a few of them can get through. So they can't fight you all at once. I mean, it's not just computer roleplay games. We used to do it in D&D, right? You'd open the door to a room. You've listened at the room. Maybe you heard the goblins talking. You've scouted it. You've used Wizard Eye or something. You know there are goblins in the room. What do? Right? You open the door. You have the paladin and the fighter stand in the doorway, blocking it. And you have everybody else stand behind and shoot over their shoulders. Right? Bonus points if you have a halfling and a dwarf as your paladin and your fighter, because then the elf and the human who are behind can shoot over their heads. And the goblins can only bring 1 or 2 guys to bear at a time, and the whole rest of the room backs up trying to get out to you. Now, the GM could set up a trap where there's a secret door that the goblins know about and the party doesn't, and they can go around and flank you and stuff. And that's all fun, right? But the doorway pull is a time-honored tradition in role-playing games. And my personal advice in this room is to do a doorway pull when you're in a group. Again, if you're solo and you're a Stalker, this kind of thing is fine. And see, I just aggroed the guy down there, right? So that leads to chain aggro. Now we've aggroed the other spawn, but it's okay because we finished the first spawn. Whoops. Click. Right, so one of the problems we're having here is that these guys resist my damage, so it's taking a little longer. They're all orange, right? And I chain aggro 2 spawns. But because I cleared the other 2 spawns out, and because there's just one of us, so there are only 3 mobs per spawn point, it's fine, right? I could have taken all 4 spawns at once if I had to. Scrappers and Stalkers and Brutes can do that sort of thing. Is there a glowy in here? I don't hear anything. But yeah, this room, again, not original to the game. Right? And that's another room where sometimes there are things hidden in corners and stuff. And so anyway, the point that I'm making is that the the rooms that you see that are often very hard to find enemies and glowies in are rooms that were added later, probably by a different level designer, right? Rather than whoever designed the first set of levels. And my guess is they just didn't give a lot of thought to the fact that now that we have these levels, that these rooms in these maps that have all these little nooks and crannies. Do you see all the missing? Now that we have rooms that have all these little nooks and crannies, the quote-unquote defeat all missions are going to become a little more tedious and problematic, and they didn't really do anything to account for that. Right? It's sort of antithetical to the COH original model, which was to try and avoid tedium, right? With the exception of street hunts. Same thing with the outdoor maps, where it's a defeat all, right? That defeat all mission that's on an outdoor map that takes forever to go through used to be on an indoor map like this, and they changed it when they added these new maps, right? They put some of them on the new maps, and they just changed that. They retagged that mission to be summoning you to this other map, right, instead of the old one. But the old map had, 3 small office levels and a quarter as many spawns on it, so that defeat all mission wasn't so bad, right? And it was fine. And now they put it on the bigger map, and all of a sudden it becomes a really objectionable, frustrating mission, right? And that's the sort of thing where, okay, if you're going to redesign that map, right? For Wheel of Destruction, for instance, that was not on an outdoor map originally. Right? So if you're going to redesign that map and put it on the outdoor map, you might need to rethink how you're positioning the glowies, how you're positioning the mobs, whether it's a defeat all, maybe just make it defeat the boss now, right? The boss and his minions, because that outdoor map is going to be much bigger and have a lot more spawns in it than the little indoor map that it used to be when the game first came out, right? And unfortunately, they changed the maps, but they didn't change the mission goals. I thought I heard a glowy around here. They changed the maps, but they didn't change the mission goals, and they didn't really account for those differences. And that's why some of these missions are kind of frustrating now, because they were fine before, and then when they changed the map, they didn't realize, well, we need to go in and edit this mission. Maybe take out some of the spawn points, maybe take out some of the glowies, maybe instead of having 15 glowies, where only one out of every 2 is going to actually give you credit for it. You just have 7 glowies, and it's 7 out of 7, because this map is going to be frustrating to find 15 glowies on, right? Nobody gave any thought to that, apparently. And that's why some of those maps are not, I feel like, not properly designed, right? And same thing with here. I hear a glowy, right? But it's one of these, okay, it's hidden somewhere, and I'm probably going to have to find the other 2 and then come back, because it's pretty much, this is the room where I can't find stuff, because there are always little nooks and crannies. I always forget one of them, and it's always the one where the glowy is, right? Or the mob is, just like last time, right? And again, it's because this mission was not originally set up in a map that had this room, so when they retrofitted this map into the mission, they didn't think about, is it going to be frustrating to deal with this map and the goal, given the goals that we've given you. Okay, so there's one clue left after this. Do we find it? So we got our red. Those are the doors. But I don't know about the next glowy. Well, let's head out, and we'll see what we can find. We'll probably end up back in this room or this room. But again, it's almost always one of the newer rooms that I end up stuck in, not able to find stuff. The original rooms that were in the game usually are not that way. They're usually not problematic the same way. Oh, well, there's that glowy. Okay, we've completed the mission, but we'll go ahead and take these guys out. So you might be wondering, sometimes when I do an assassin strike like that, the enemy goes down and the other enemies in the spawn don't notice, and I don't wait for assassin strike, I just go ahead and attack the spawn. It's a little inefficient, but what do I care? Like, I already know from having fought multiple spawns before that I can easily fight all three of them with only one assassin strike, so I don't worry about it. It is a little bit, inefficient, but that's okay. Alright, let's call Marisol. And so we're looking at the genetics. We're going to defeat the security chief and his men in Steel Canyon. So let's just use this and head on over to Steel Canyon. So as you can see now, most of our list is unlocked. I haven't done the Founders Falls. I don't think, or have I done Founders Falls? I don't think I have. I don't think I've done Founders Falls. Oh, yes, I have. I have done Founders Falls. Yeah, so we haven't done, like, Eden and A Craze Folly and that stuff yet, but eventually we'll do them all. I'll do them all. You won't have to watch that, but eventually I'll do them all. And we need to do Dark Astoria at some point, too. And also the Echoes of Galaxy City, Atlas Park, and Dark Astoria. Alright, Vampire. Are you going to turn into a wolf even if I assassinate you? Apparently not. Doors, any doors inside a mission that open like this were added later. They're not original to the game. Now, sometimes I call them new. They're not new. All right, they were added in 2005 or something, and they've been around ever since. But they're not original to the game. That's why, as I was saying at one point in an earlier episode, sometimes the villains seem to just, when they flee, just go right through the doors as if they're not there. That's because the villains were not programmed to recognize the presence of doors when the game first came out, because those doors didn't exist. We're looking for 2 files now. So ultimately what's going on is the council are making vampires from people, obviously, and they're doing some kind of experiments, and they're creating drugs and stuff. And, oh, how come these guys didn't see me? Well, they did now. And so that's what this story is. Eventually we're going to fight the vampiri as they're being generated and coming out of their birthing chambers. Again, this not original to the lab map. Right, original, again, almost any room where you see all of this 3-dimensional relief was not original to the lab maps. The lab maps originally pretty much just looked like this. Right? So all the rooms that you see that are flatter, those are the rooms that were like were originally in the game. And then these things where you have hallways up on a higher level, that came later. So this is a newer one. That room where you go into the lab, you're going to a lab and there's like a ramp going down into a floor underneath, also not original. I'll point them out as we go. Maybe people will be interested. It's interesting. Like, I haven't really thought about that before, but it is the case that almost every time I get frustrated by not being able to find something in a corner somewhere, it's almost always a map. It's almost always a room that was not originally in the game. So I get the sense that there was some new map maker that they hired who created all these cool maps that looked cooler, but when they added them to the missions, they didn't do anything to reconstruct the mission to account for the fact that there are now rooms in the map generator that we didn't account for originally. Same thing with these doors. It's a shame that back when COH first came out, there was no YouTube. There was no possibility, realistically, given that we were many of us on dial-up and experiencing a lot of lag to begin with, and our computers had, what did I have back in 04? 256 meg graphics cards. There was really no possibility to shoot video of City of Heroes while you're playing, and it's a shame because it would really be neat to go back in time and look at how this game looked and what the maps were like. Now, this map, I'm fairly sure, despite the three-dimensionality, this one was in the original game, I'm pretty sure. And I'll show you why I think so. So I remember that a friend of mine, the good Rob actually, was running a his own story arc. He was running a story about his character. And his character was actually someone who was being used by the Cray to infiltrate our team, but he broke their mind control. This was his role play. And so in the 30s, he ran a storyline where he admitted to us that he was working for Cray, and he was trying to help us get out from, like, basically fix it. Cray had funded our super base, which didn't exist because there weren't any bases yet. And so I remember him, he said, I got to find the right mission. Look at all these misses. And he got a mission with a lab in it, one of these maps. And then he took us through, and he said these rooms had all the data in it and stuff. And I think this was one of the rooms. This was like where his character was operated on. I think so. I feel like I remember that. There's also another one that I know for sure everybody stood in there and did our area effect attacks because he said we need to destroy these canisters. And if I find it in this map, I'll show it to you. So yeah, there have been a lot of changes in City of Heroes over the years, and many of them are basic to the game now, right? Like I talked about global defense nerf and enhancement diversification. That all happened in the first couple years. So if COH has been around now for 21 and a half, almost it'll be 22 years in April, right? Will be the 22nd anniversary of City of Heroes. If that's true, and something has been in the game since 2007, then it's been in the game for far more years than it hasn't been. So, but there is still the question of, is it original to the game or not, right? And I think that sometimes when they change stuff, they didn't necessarily fully account for all of the variables that they needed to. What the heck am I rolling? 96s? Alright, so let's see. We've done all this. There's nobody over here. Okay, so I think this is one of the three-dimensional rooms that was original to the game. Some of them were, right? There were some in the caves as well, but more and more of them were put into the game over time. And again, I feel like um, some of the missions required a little bit of adjustment after adding those rooms and putting spawns and glowies in those rooms. They need a little bit of adjustment. I want to point out that the asterisk appearing where the glowies are, I believe, post dates the new rooms. So I think the sequence of events was, people always complain about not being able to find glowies because it would happen sometimes. But I think the order of events was, they had the original maps, they made new maps, the new maps made it harder for people to find glowies and minions, and so then they started having the map light up with the minions and the glowies when there were only one glowy or one spawn of minions left, so that people could find them. This room, I believe, is original to the game. Still no files found. I hear glowy, but let's complete this map. There might be a room over here. Probably not. So that guy is still up after a built-up strike because this has gone down a little bit. I mean, I guess we're going to need like level 35s on there from the generic IOs to do enough damage to one-shot a lieutenant under build-up, while under build-up. There's nothing you could do to enhance the build-up so that it does more damage. You can enhance its 2-hit, but not its damage. Its 2-hit buff. And that's probably going to be the last glowy over there. Maybe not. There's more glowies over there. Okay. Is there a boss? Usually there's a boss around here. Yeah. Okay, this guy, it'll be interesting to see if he tries to wolf up, as I call it. We're going to placate. And now I'm going to try and assassin strike him so he doesn't wolf up. Yeah, we were able to stop him. I don't know if he would have turned into a wolf or not. Not all of them do. And again, not vital. I could easily fight a werewolf, no problem. I just want to see if we can stop them. One clue left. This one over here. And this. Still nothing? Huh. We missed something. Did I hear another glowy over here? Ah. But still nothing. Okay. I guess we're going to go back to the previous level and see what we can find. Maybe since there's only one file left, we'll get the white asterisk. Apparently not. Oh, turn off. Well, let's see if there's one on this level. If not, we're going to have to crawl all over the map again. Up there it is. Okay, so again, what did I say at the beginning? This is one of the newer maps. It's got these nooks and crannies. And what do we got? Hidden in the little back here. This isn't really too hidden. I thought it was going to be down inside. I didn't notice these guys, so let's take them out. Alright, now a good chunk of the way through level 30. Level 31, we get some more enhancement slots, and we're going to try to finish Shadow Mall and probably, I don't know what we're going to put something on, maybe Energize. Let's take a look. Yeah, we probably want to do Energize. We got these two done. These guys are all done. Probably don't have to do Overload for a while. So we're going to probably do Shadow Mall. And maybe, I don't know if we want to do 2 Energizes, get the triple recharge on it, maybe? So that we get it down to like really fast recharge. You always want to have your heal up as often as possible. We don't use it much, but when you need it, you want it to be up. And if you're under a lot of pressure and you're going to be needing it more than once in a minute, so we want it able to come up very quickly. And then later we'll down prioritize the idea, but we're eventually going to want to put heal enhancers on it to double the heal. Right, and eventually maybe put a set like Doctored Wounds. But that'll be, you know, level 48 or something. Alright, let's call Marisol. And it looks like we're almost an hour into this, so we're going to stop here, and we will continue with this story arc and probably finish it in the next episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed the trip down memory lane talking about maps. I'll try to remember in some of the other maps to point out the newer stuff that was added later just for interest. If you're interested, let me know and I will keep doing that. Otherwise, I'll shut up about it. Until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been Soloing the Stalker on City of Heroes.